Today is day 4 for the Come Follow Me study for this week, June 1st through the 7th. My heart rejoiceth in the Lord. Ruth and 1 Samuel 1 through 7. Thursday, June 4th, 2026, 1 Samuel 1 through 2. The first book of Samuel, otherwise called the first book of the Kings. What is the book of 1 Samuel? The book of 1 Samuel recounts the ministry of the prophet Samuel, the last of the Israelite judges. During the era of the judges, many Israelites forgot the Lord and turned to idolatry. The book of 1 Samuel describes Samuel's efforts to re-establish regular worship of Jehovah. It also describes Israel's difficult transition from judges to kings. Under the Lord's direction, Samuel called and anointed Saul to be the first king of Israel and David to become a future king of Israel. 1 Samuel 1. Hannah prays for a son and vows to give him to the Lord. 1 Samuel 1, 1 through 3. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Toha, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. And he had two wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. Yearly, as has been inferred from the use of the same peculiar expression in Exodus 13:10, at the feast of the Passover, one above all others, to which families as such were wont to go up. Elkanah came to Shiloh with his household for the twofold purpose of worshiping and of sacrificing peace offerings according to the law. Brian Richards said, "The tabernacle of Moses resided in Shiloh at this time. There were many centuries of time between the settlement of the Israelites in Canaan and the construction of the Temple of Solomon. For most of this time, the tabernacle was in Shiloh, not Jerusalem." The Bible Dictionary states Shiloh is a sacred city of Palestine, 9.25 miles north from Bethel and 11.5 miles south from Shechem, in the tribe of Ephraim. The tabernacle was here during the greater part of the period of the judges, and the place continued to be the religious center of the nation until after the loss of the ark in the disastrous battle of Nebuchadnezzar. While Samuel was the prophet, and until the war with the Palestines, the ark was located at Shiloh. During the war, it was taken to the battlefield called Nebuchadnezzar, where it was captured. For 7 months, the Philistines were plagued and severely smitten because of their unauthorized possession of the ark. This caused them to return the ark to the Israelites, which they did at the village of Kirjath Jearim. Here it remained some 20 years, ignored by King Saul except for one battle when its presence had been requested. Finally, King David brought the ark to Jerusalem, and after some years, his son Solomon constructed the long-awaited temple. 1 Samuel 1, 4 through 5. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. When Elkanah took his wives and their families to Shiloh, where the tabernacle had been located, after the tribes conquered Canaan, to offer sacrifices, a peace offering was made. After the fat, kidneys, and other parts were burned, the priest customarily received the breast and right shoulder. The rest of the sacrificial animal was given back to the offerer to be eaten in a special feast. From his part, Elkanah gave portions of the meat to his family. Hannah received either more than the others or else a more choice portion because of Elkanah's love for her. 1 Samuel 1, 6 through 7. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Peninnah, the other wife, was constantly striving to irritate and vex her, to make her fret, to make her discontented with her lot, because the Lord had denied her children. As the whole family went up to Shiloh to the annual festivals, Peninnah had both sons and daughters to accompany her, but Hannah had none. And Peninnah took this opportunity particularly to twit Hannah with her barrenness. by making an obstentious exhibition of her children. She was greatly distressed because it was a great reproach to a woman among the Jews to be barren, because some say even one hoped that the Messiah should spring from her line. Brian Richards said, some have interpreted her adversary to mean Peninnah, but her real adversary was Satan. Once he gets under your skin, Satan never rests. He burrows into the most sensitive places, making things worse wherever he can. This story is actually a beautiful illustration of one of Satan's tactics. Whether making Latter-day mothers feel unworthy or convincing Hannah that she was worthless without children, the adversary is a proficient provoker. 1 Samuel 1, 8-9. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved? Am I not better to thee than 10 sons? So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. In the ancient Middle East, it was customary for certain officials to place a stool or seat in a courtyard or near the gate of the city where they could sit in judgment, hearing cases or complaints. These seats usually had no backs and were placed near a wall or post to provide a backrest. This circumstance would explain why Eli was sitting near a post. It was probably on such a backless seat that Eli was sitting when he heard the news of the death of his sons and fell over backwards, killing himself. 1 Samuel 1, 10-11. And she was in bitterness, or sadness, or grief, of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but wilt give unto mine handmaid a man-child, then will I give him unto the Lord all the days of his life. Elder Matthew Cowley said, I recall the prayer of Hannah. She went to the sanctuary to pray, but her prayer was not audible. Her lips moved, but she said nothing that could be heard. And Eli thought that she was intoxicated, and he reprimanded her. But then she convinced him that that which she was doing was not because of intoxication, but it was a prayer from her heart to God that she might bear a child. And how earnest she was in that prayer! So earnest, so sincere, that she said, if God will give me this child, I will lend him to the Lord for his life. How well the mothers know that life is eternal. How well she knew that in lending this child to the Lord for his life, that beyond and down through the ages of eternity, he would be her child, and she would be his mother. 1 Samuel 1:11 continued, and there shall no razor come upon his head. Hannah made a vow that if the Lord blessed her with a son, she would give him unto the Lord all the days of his life. This vow, along with her promise that no razor should touch her son's head, indicates that Samuel was raised as a Nazirite and set apart for service to God. Nazirites were people who made a special vow of dedication to God for a period of time. During this time, Nazirites promised not to cut their hair, drink wine, or touch any dead thing. And Samuel is a great contrast to Samson, the former keeping his Nazirite vows throughout life, becoming a powerful man of God, and the latter violating all his vows, becoming a wretched example of failure to serve God. 1 Samuel 1:12-16. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked, or saw, her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunken neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial, or in Hebrew, worthlessness, good for nothing, base wickedness. For out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. When Hannah protested to Eli that she was not a daughter of Belial, she meant a worthless or profane person. Belial means worthless, someone of evil affiliation. It is capitalized by the English translators as if it were a title for Satan, and is sometimes so used in later books of the Old Testament. Eli the priest blesses her. 1 Samuel 1:17 through 18. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition, that thou hast asked of him. And she said, Let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. Samuel is born. 1 Samuel 1:19 through 20. And they arose up in the morning early, and worshipped before the Lord, and returned, and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. The name Samuel means in Hebrew, heard of God. The name was meant to serve as a lifelong reminder to both Hannah and Samuel of the special circumstances and commitments attendant on his birth. 1 Samuel 1:21 through 23. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice, and his vow. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. And Elkanah her husband said unto her, Do what seemeth thee good, tarry until thou have weaned him. Only the Lord establish his word. So the woman abode, and gave her son suck, until she weaned him. Hannah loans him to the Lord. 1 Samuel 1:24. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, with 3 bullocks, and 1 ephah of flour, and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young. Weaning took place very late among the Israelites. According to 2 Maccabees 7:27, the Hebrew mothers were in the habit of suckling their children for 3 years. When the weaning had taken place, Hannah would bring her son up to the sanctuary to appear before the face of the Lord, and remain there forever, his whole life long. The Levites generally were only required to perform service at the sanctuary from their 25th to their 50th year. But Samuel was to be presented to the Lord immediately after his weaning had taken place, and to remain at the sanctuary forever, or to belong entirely to the Lord. To this end, he was to receive his training at the sanctuary, that at the very earliest waking up of his spiritual susceptibilities, he might receive the impressions of the sacred presence of God. 1 Samuel 1:25-28. And they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my lord, as thy soul liveth, my lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition, which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. Once Samuel was weaned, Hannah did not delay their separation, but took him directly to Shiloh. The simple words, and the child was young, portrayed the significance of Hannah's offering to the Lord. How tender those few years with Samuel must have been as she ministered to his needs and nurtured his sweet innocence. What righteous mother would unclasp a hand yet so small and place it in another's grasp? Only a mother whose very fiber burned with a sure knowledge of the one requiring such a sacrifice. The Spirit must have whispered of eternal bonds at the moment of separation, since Hannah declared to Eli, I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. Perhaps you have suffered a great loss, as Ruth and Naomi did. Or maybe, like Hannah, you long for blessings you have not yet received. How did these women show their faith in God? What do you learn from their examples? Of course, not everyone who prays for a child receives one, and not everyone whose spouse dies remarries. But everyone who turns to the Savior receives his help and guidance. Consider how you have come to trust in the Lord during your difficult times. 1 Samuel 2. Hannah sings praises to the Lord. Elder Bruce McConkie said, Psalmic utterances of praise and thanksgiving had always been in the highest tradition of the Israelite people. The Psalms of David and Solomon and Moses and others, preserved in the Old Testament, are still read and sung in the churches of Christendom. Great psalmic utterances of Nephi are found in the Book of Mormon. Miriam, a prophetess, the sister of Aaron, led the women of Israel in a psalm of rejoicing after they had passed through the Red Sea. Deborah, a prophetess, who judged Israel in her day, sang a great hymn of praise when the Lord, through her instrumentality, slew Sisera and saved Israel from the king of Canaan. Hannah, the mother of Samuel, burst forth in a great accolade of praise when she delivered her son to Eli. And Mary, filled with the same spirit and exhibiting a profound knowledge of Old Testament history and Hebrew idiom and concepts, gives forth one of the great psalms of praise of all time. Hannah's prayer shows her to have been a woman with great faith and love for God. 1 Samuel 2:1. And Hannah prayed and said, My heart rejoiceth in the Lord. Mine horn, used figuratively, means power or capacity, is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. Instead of reacting with anguish or bitterness, Hannah proclaimed, My heart rejoiceth in the Lord. And she praised him for granting her the power to raise above the affliction of barrenness. She taught the key to power over afflictions by exclaiming, Because I rejoice in thy salvation. Her total submission to divine will was honored by the Lord, and in a fullness of joy she bore solemn witness of him. The horn symbolized power and strength. God had given her the power to bear a child. 1 Samuel 2:2. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our God. Hannah then manifested a further gift of the Spirit when she prophesied of the future Messiah. In mentioning a rock, she alluded to the one who would protect Israel against evil. The rock was a representation of protection. Jesus Christ is the rock or stone of Israel, the protector from evil. 1 Samuel 2:3. Talk no more so exceedingly proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth, for the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. Elder Marvin J. Ashton said, When I was a boy, I liked to hear about King Arthur. In the story of King Arthur, Queen Guinevere gives this advice to Lancelot, the bravest of the knights of the Round Table. For I would not have you declare yourself to the world until you have proved your worthiness. Wherefore do not yourselves proclaim your name, but wait until the world proclaimeth it. How much more effective is it in our day also to let the world see our good works rather than to hear us dwell on our own accomplishments or point out our impressive achievements? Consideration to the feelings of others should always be important to worthy Latter-day Saints. Rightfully, we may be happy about the number of children with which we have been blessed, the missionaries who have served, the temple marriages of our offspring, and the accomplishments of family members. However, others who are not so fortunate may have feelings of guilt or inadequacy. They may have been praying long and hard for the same blessings about which we are boasting, and they may feel that they are out of favor with God. For this reason, our appreciation should be sincerely felt, and we should express gratitude frequently to our Father in heaven, but not too vocally to the world. We should be gratefully aware of the source of our blessings and strengths, and refrain from taking undue credit for personal accomplishments. 1 Samuel 2:4-8. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired out themselves for bread, and they that were hungry ceased, so that the barren hath borne 7, and she that hath many children is waxed feeble. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifted up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. The people of Hannah's day did not think the world was flat and sitting on pillars, as some suppose. That superstition was the invention of the Middle Ages. Hannah was using poetic language to show the power of Jehovah. 1 Samuel 2:9-10. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. In 1 Samuel 2:10, both allusions are combined into one. The Messiah is the anointed one, who will break all adversaries of the Lord in pieces. The Greek word for Messiah, Christos, also means the anointed one. He it was, Hannah said, who would be given strength, and that his horn or power would be exalted before men. This passage is a choice Old Testament reference to the future Messiah and shows that Hannah was blessed with the gift of prophecy. Samuel ministers before the Lord. 1 Samuel 2:11. And Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest. In Hebrew, and the youth served the Lord in the presence of Eli the priest. The sons of Eli reject the Lord and live in wickedness. 1 Samuel 2:12. Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They knew not the Lord. Brian Richards said, Remember when Hannah was praying and Eli thought she was drunk? She said, Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial. A child of Belial meant worthless, evil, a menace to society. The phrase sons of Belial is used throughout the King James Version of the Old Testament to describe people who rebelled against the Lord's teachings and social norms. Eli's sons were given this label because of their sinful actions while serving as priests in the tabernacle. Their offenses included taking meat from the animal sacrifices and engaging in immoral acts with the women who came to worship at the tabernacle. Brian Richards said Eli's sons compounded their evil by violating their priesthood. They were a menace to the priesthood, a menace to their father, a menace to all of Israel. Their conduct was scandalous, even in a decrepit age, and the unblushing frankness of their vices led the people of the Lord to transgress by bringing into contempt the sacrificial services of the sanctuary. The main element of hope and the prospect of a possible revival lay in the close adherence of the people to those services. But the sons of Eli seemed determined to prove that those ordinances were merely designed for the advantage of the priesthood, and therefore not holy, of divine significance, and unalterably fixed. Contrary to the divine institution, the priest's right, as he claimed it, was to take, if necessary by force, parts of the sacrifices before these had really been offered unto the Lord. 1 Samuel 2:13 through 17. And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came, while the flesh was in seething or boiling, with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand, and he struck it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. Also before they burnt the fat, the priest's servant came and said to the man that sacrificed, Give flesh to roast for the priest, for he will not have sodden, or cooked, or boiled flesh of thee, but raw. And if any man said unto him, Let them not fail to burn the fat presently, or first of all, and then take as much as thy soul desireth, then he would answer him, Nay, but thou shalt give it to me now, and if not, I will take it by force. Wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord. For men abhorred the offering of the Lord. Of these offerings, the portion which legally fell to the priest as his share was the heave leg and wave breast, and this he was to receive after the fat portions of the sacrifice had been burned upon the altar. To take the flesh of the sacrificial animal and roast it before this offering had been made was a crime which was equivalent to a robbery of God. Moreover, the priest could not claim any of the flesh which the offerer of the sacrifice boiled for the sacrificial meal, after burning the fat portions upon the altar and giving up the portions which belonged to them, to say nothing of their taking it forcibly out of the pots while it was being boiled. Such conduct as this on the part of the young men, the priest's servants, was a great sin in the sight of the Lord, as they thereby brought the sacrifice of the Lord into contempt. Eli blesses Elkanah and Hannah, and they have sons and daughters. 1 Samuel 2:18 through 20. But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat, and brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife, and said, The Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan. In Hebrew, the petition which she asked, which is lent to the Lord. And they went into their own home. Hannah's tests involved progressive degrees of sacrifice. Her blessings, like ours, did not come until after her trial of faith. Her blessing of motherhood came only when she had sufficiently proven both her righteousness in adverse circumstances and her willingness to submit to a divine decree of barrenness. She had received her powerful testimony of the Savior only after she had fulfilled her vow to consecrate Samuel. And finally, the promise of additional children came only as she continued faithful without receiving further posterity. Like Hannah's, each of our tests can lead to greater blessings and deeper spiritual maturity. For the Lord promises that all things wherewith you have been afflicted shall work together for your good, and to my name's glory. And his glory is nothing less than the immortality and eternal life of man. Whether given immortality or hereafter, these promised blessings, contingent upon our faithful endurance of our trials, will more than compensate for any losses. Indeed, we cannot even comprehend the reward that awaits us, if we are worthy. Sacrifice is an essential part of progression, determining our worthiness of the blessings of eternal life. The Lord assures us that whosoever layeth down his life, for my name's sake, shall find it again, even life eternal. I will prove you in all things, whether you will abide in my covenant, even unto death, that you may be found worthy. This principle was again emphasized when the prophet Joseph Smith explained, from the first existence of man, the faith necessary unto the enjoyment of life and salvation never could be obtained without the sacrifice of all earthly things. A crucial requirement in achieving exaltation must be our ever-deepening discipleship of broken heart and yielded will, a consecration of self, resulting in the blessings of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Only then are we worthy to unite with Hannah and other true disciples of Christ, proclaiming with them, "My heart rejoiceth in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation." 1 Samuel 2:21. And the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord. As the Lord promises all his children, once a test is fully met, the blessings are then bestowed, whether in this life or the next. Hannah was likewise blessed once the commitment to her vow had been fully tested. Not only did Samuel become a great prophet, serving the Lord all his days, but also Hannah's yearnings for more children were fulfilled. Through Eli, the Lord praised Hannah's commitment to her vow, then blessed her with the promise of more children. Hannah was eventually granted 3 more sons and 2 daughters. At last her cup truly overfilled with blessings of great joy. What a beautiful illustration of the abundance of the Lord's blessings to the faithful. She freely gave 1 child to the Lord, and in return he gave her 5 more. The Lord had glorious blessings in store for Hannah, as she was to be the mother of a great prophet. But before Hannah could receive that blessing, her desire for a son had to become so intense that she would be willing to give him up to the Lord. Sometimes we are like Hannah. The Lord has to prepare us before he can grant our righteous desires. Hannah's testimony reaches across dispensations to our time, and her story is an invitation to apply the same principles of righteousness. Through doing so, we too might rejoice in the Lord as we experience his innumerable blessings in our lives. The Lord rejects the house of Eli. 1 Samuel 2:22-29. Now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he said unto them, Why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. Ye make the Lord's people to transgress. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto the voice of their father, because the Lord would slay them. And the child Samuel grew on, and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men. And there came a man of God unto Eli, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father, when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And did I choose them out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon mine altar to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honorest, or treat with scorn, thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people. The poor example of the priest caused others in Israel to abhor the offering of the Lord. But these actions were not all. For the sons of Eli seduced women and engaged in adulterous acts at the very door of the tabernacle, evidently by misusing their office of priests to entice the women. Under the law of Moses, willful disobedience to parents was punishable by death, and the parents were obliged to see that that punishment was carried out. Hophni and Phinehas compounded their already serious sins by disobeying their father, and Eli failed in his parental responsibility as well as in his office as the presiding priest. Although he rebuked his sons, he took no action to see that the abomination in his family and at the tabernacle were corrected. Therefore, a man of God, some unnamed prophet, came to Eli and pronounced the Lord's curse upon Eli's house, because thou honorest thy sons above me. That is, Eli's relationship with his sons was of more value to him than his relationship with God. 1 Samuel 2:30-36. Wherefore the Lord God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thine house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now the Lord saith, Be it far from me. For them that honoureth me I will honour, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come, that I will cut off thine arm, and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thine house. And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, in all the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from mine altar, shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. And this shall be a sign unto thee, that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall die both of them. And I will raise me up a faithful priest, that shall do according to that which is in mine heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. Or his progeny shall be perpetuated. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, Put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's offices, that I may eat a piece of bread.